now where it's like, I don't want to trade every single first red day because I'm trading too much.
Okay.
And I'm a big proponent on trading less.
Perfect.
I used to trade a lot, and now that's not what it's about. It's about not trading.
Most of what you're looking at, and I don't want to answer, I'll let you answer, but
Okay.
it's more of a technical standpoint. You're not looking at the financials. You mentioned you don't think the stock's going to zero. So you're just looking at a trend change, selling, again, mostly a technical versus a fundamental type approach.
In the beginning, absolutely.
Okay.
Now we're, 4 or 5 years in, and I'm starting to progress within my small niche, my small home. What makes one first red day worse than the other first red day, and how can I build a thesis and a conviction in my head to maybe take bigger size or maybe be more patient?
Right.
Can I find reason more than just the candlesticks?
Okay.
And so that's where I've kind of taken it now into the progression where, I am looking through the filings. I do have a process to find the crappiest of the crap, and I may want to be more patient with that one. Now that I am like a full-time trader, I do look for more edge.
So that's another very common question. So what are you looking for, on those fundamentals? What do you, when you mention the filings, the news, the financials, et cetera, kind of what, take me, it's a hypothetical, but kind of take me into a potential idea.
So the idea is I want to find, like I was saying earlier, more sellers than buyers.
Yep.
Where can there be more overhead supply, potential areas of disasters for longs?
Sure.
And within the filings, you can find things like dilution, which is the process of a company taking freshly minted shares and dumping them onto retail traders. So if a stock has, and maybe this might be too technical, but if a stock has 1 million shares outstanding and they dilute with another 1 million shares, now there's 2 million shares outstanding, but there's a fresh amount of 1 million people where they just sold all that dilution into. So that's a lot more sellers now at that point, and it adds to, when that first red day comes, there should be a lot more selling happening than buying.
Yep.
And so that's what I've kind of taken it into now, where it's like, I don't want to trade every single first red day because I'm trading too much.
Okay.
And I'm a big proponent on trading less.
Perfect.
I used to trade a lot, and now that's not what it's about. It's about not trading, and unless I absolutely have to because it looks so perfect.
Right.
And I'm finding, there are scenarios where when I can piece together the full puzzle and be detective about it, that leads to much bigger percent wins, that leads to much higher conviction, and honestly, it just led to consistency.
Okay.
Finding the right stocks to actually short because of knowing how much overhead supply there was.
Okay. Now that's something you said that is I'm sure a lot of people are kind of the antenna to go up. So you're saying trading less is better.
Yeah.
Most people are going to say, well, if you can make $100 on one trade, why wouldn't you trade 10 times a day? So explain that less, what it means to you that less is more. So
it took me a while to realize that because I used to try to do that. I used to try to, even when I found consistency.
All been there. Yeah.
I still wanted to hit it multiple times. I still wanted to trade multiple stocks and make as much money, but it's not about frequency of winning. It's about frequency of not losing.
Right.
And I find that, once you start making money on the day, you start getting into your emotions, and maybe you have a gain and then you don't want to risk the house money, or you want to only risk house money.
Yep.
So maybe you've made $500 and you get into another trade where you're risking that $500.
That saying drives me nuts because it's like everybody that says that seems to end up like break even on the day.
Exactly.
Because all they do is get back, it's like, oh, I'm only risking house money. And then at the end of the day, they're flat or they're down. And I'm like, yeah. That wasn't house's money. That was your money.
Right. That was your money for the day.
Yeah.
That was your bills. And then on top of that, it's like a lot of the times when you're getting into multiple plays on the day, unless you're really experienced, you're probably making those ideas up on the fly.
Yep.
And there's going to be some emotions involved. And so I found that the more times that I kind of dipped my finger back into the candy store, I would get a little burnt for it.
Yep.
And so it got to the point where I just wanted modest goals. I just wanted to come into the market, make my money on my predictable move, and get out, and then do what I actually set out to do, not sit in front of the laptop for 6-8 hours trying to maximize as much money as I have, but I'm just trying to make my predictable money and then go live my life. Progress elsewhere, create businesses, work out, eat well, and research, and do the things that I originally set out to do back in 2015.
Drives me nuts when people, they say, I want to escape the 9 to 5. I want to escape the daily grind.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then, okay, all you do is sit here at a laptop at 15 hours a day. I'm like, okay, yeah, you're at home. That's great. You're at home. But it's like, what's the point of sitting here for all day long trying to squeak out another profit when you already made that money in the morning?
And it's not necessarily
or maybe you're an
great.
Afternoon trader. Why be there in the morning if you're an afternoon trader? I mean, the whole reason brings me to this, and I think you too, was the idea of the freedom.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit here hunched over a laptop 12 hours a day.
And the freedom's amazing. You know, just to touch on the freedom, I just got back from traveling all summer long, and I didn't even open up. I opened up my laptop maybe twice in 3 months. Because I knew the summer months were slow. I know that summer months are generally not months that you're going to miss the most amazing opportunity. And I was able to say I worked really well this year. I had made 100K from January to May.
Beautiful.
And I didn't need to trade anymore. I didn't need to make more money. There's not this itch where it's almost like degenerative, where it's like you're an addict.
Well, that's that gambler mindset, and that's why so many fail. Is so many people you're approaching it like a professional. You're approaching it like this is something that I recognize that can make me money. You're not approaching it as someone that wants action on the day.
Exactly.
It's
and for a while, I wanted the action.
Yep. And again, been there, done that.
Yeah. But then you realize the action just, it's debilitating almost. And
you end up like a freaking addict at some point.
And it really does suck when you make $500 a day and then you get into 4 or 5 more trades and you dwindle that 500. Even if you don't lose it all, it just mentally it handicaps you. Not only because you lose your money, but you also don't know where your consistency lies. Because how can you review all those trades, and how can you review which one that you should only trade?
Right.
When you have 5 or 6, and maybe one's a multi-day runner dip buy, maybe one's a dip buy on an OTC panic, maybe one's a different dip buy that you just followed someone on Twitter. Who knows? But you contaminate your mind when you trade so much that you really need to just narrow it down and focus within what you know.
Now, to kind of wrap up, kind of going back to a little bit earlier. First of all, I'm still amazed by your progress in a couple of years, what you've accomplished.
Thank you.
But the one takeaway I kind of get is exactly that. To the person viewing, listening, do you think that would be the one big takeaway? Is go back to Huddie in 2015 and just look at one setup at a time, test this, actually keep track of what you're doing. Do you think, and again, I'm impressed with your results, do you think that could have shortened maybe your journey a little bit by being a little more focused?
Absolutely. If I was more focused and organized and again, it goes back to the needing the action back then.
Right.
And I was trading all over the place where, to date, that's why I said when we started, like, it gives me chills to think of the beginning because I was an absolute gambler. People say, is stock trading gambling? And yes, it is to some extent. But when you actually hone your craft, you know what you're doing, then what makes me any different than a big-time investor? Right? I know where I can actually make money. Back then, that wasn't the case at all. It was poking around like Monopoly money.
Right.
And that's what led to 1 step forward, 1.5 steps back for way too long. I mean, it didn't have to take 2.5 years, but it took 2.5 years for me to come to the realization.
Thanks for watching our video. Be sure to comment below with any trading related question. We love answering your questions. Also, like and share with your friends, and be sure to subscribe to be notified as soon as our next video hits. And if you're looking to expand your trading knowledge, don't forget to check out all of our other videos, and be sure to click the trial below. Check out StocksToTrade. I think it is one of the best, most rapidly advancing softwares out there. Be sure to check out our trial.